evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Board meeting of May 21st, 2024. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sergio, you want to take us out?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if you could remain standing for a moment of silence. And today I would implore all of you to keep the Radschmidt family in your hearts. Luke Radschmidt, who United for the Troops was started because of by his family, passed away this weekend in an accident down at Myrtle Beach, and a very tragic loss of a very good 38-year-old man who served our country well. So if we could have a moment of silence and prayer for the family. Thank you. Please be seated. Right. Start with introductions to my right.
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Supervisor Ed Lachterman.
Councilman Sergio Esposito.
Councilman Patrick Murphy.
Adam Rodriguez, Town Attorney.
For reports for the town, there were quite a few events over the weekend. I apologize, let me just... So, this week on Wednesday, we got to celebrate two of our seniors, Evelyn and Catherine, that turned 99 years old at the Nutrition Center. I know that myself, our town clerk, Maura, our assistant clerk, my wife, we all were having a great time, and DJ Paulie was there with Donna, as usual, helping to have a great time for all. And it was really a beautiful time, and the seniors were thrilled, to say the least. Then on Friday, the seniors had another great day. Copper Beach Middle School put on a luncheon and concert. They had choral, band, and orchestra. Some amazing voices. There were two girls who did a song out of Les Mis, Castle in the Clouds. If you closed your eyes, you would have thought you were on Broadway. They were that good. Really amazing time, and the seniors were doing some crafts with them. Just some great engagement, and it was a wonderful experience there. We had on Saturday, the Kenny Scroy Highway dedication on 202 at 9:30 in the morning. A strip of the road was named after Ken, the Kenny Scroy Memorial Highway, and the family came up and they were very touched by the dedication. And I want to pass on the thank yous to Assemblyman Slater and Senator Pete Harcum for making that happen up in Albany. Then we had the SPCA dog walk. I ran into quite a few of our residents over at the FDR Park. Really great time there. Of course, dog lovers all over, as I am and my wife. So we found a couple of dogs that she wants to go down and take a look at. If we could get Bentley to accept one of them, but we will be down there this week after work one day. Then we also had over at the Grange a 2-day Rochambeau festival, which was also amazing. We are lucky enough that we have a French brigadier general who comes to the event and spoke, and he did a presentation. And the relationship with France and the United States over the years was, especially during the Revolution, was really one of the reasons we were able to win the Revolutionary War. France was the first to recognize the U.S. flag out on the high seas as one of our ships was coming into a French harbor, and between the work that Ben Franklin did to help win their support, it really helped us win the war. So it was nice to see that, and that presentation, that celebration of the relationship that we have. And then just this afternoon, a real big shout out to the Carol Manson, the St. Patrick's seniors. St. Patrick's Church Seniors, they ended up doing a food drive. A couple of my fellow members of the Sons of the American Legion, Paul Martin and Tony Giuliani, as well as Patrick Murphy and I, filled up a minivan full of food that they collected for the VA food pantry, dropped it off this afternoon, and the veterans that were there, as well as the people who work in the pantry, were absolutely ecstatic with the donation. So that was great. We do have Memorial Day coming up. There are quite a few services. Since we were talking about the VA, there is one at 10:30 a.m. on Thursday at the VA. It's actually usually a very nice ceremony. They've had USO singers there in the past. I'm not sure what their itinerary is this year, but if you could get over there and show that love and support for our veterans, and especially for those who paid the ultimate sacrifice, highly recommended. 11 a.m. on Friday, Jefferson Village does theirs. That's also a very nice ceremony. Then we have 3 in town on Memorial Day. 9 a.m., one that Tom Diana started and we will keep alive, which is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial behind Lakeland High School. That was a dedication from his senior class. So we'll do a service there at 9. At 10 a.m., we move right over to the World War II Memorial, which is in front of the Lakeland Administration Building. And they do a ceremony with the volunteer fire department. And then 11 a.m., we come back here to what is right now Patriots Park, but we'll have a new name on Monday. And we will do our service here, which will then have the parade that goes from here and will disperse out on Veterans Road. And one thing that we won't have before our next meeting, but I'm sure Susan will mention it in hers, on June 1st, there will be a ribbon cutting for the kiosks by the Bridge to Nowhere and the Atomic War Veterans Bridge that the Trailtown Committee has refurbished, did a very nice display in there, and they will be going there to cut the ribbon, and then they'll be followed by a 1.5 mile walk, and that should be a interesting time. And then I think we're in the last few days of Assemblyman Slater's collection for women's hygiene through the month of May. There's a drop box outside if anyone wants to drop anything off to help moms in needs. And the final thing I had, we were talking with the chief earlier today, and he wanted to make sure that we remind everyone that while we do not have a lot of crime in Yorktown, one of our biggest crimes are property crimes. So please lock your doors, and please make sure your cars are locked. Don't leave your car keys in your car in the driveway. People come up out of the cities, they look for this in the suburban areas, and you can end up with your car being stolen, or worse, as most of us have our garage door openers in our car as well. So please be careful there. Sergio?
All right. Well, last week, the annual Murphy Cup was played at Yorktown High School, and that's a lacrosse game, usually always against a combination of Lakeland and Panis. They call themselves the Rebels when they play together, and the Yorktown Huskers. A great day, great game. It's named after Charlie Murphy, who established lacrosse in Yorktown in 1966. So he was, and he has the distinction of establishing the first lacrosse team and program in the Hudson Valley. He dates back where he played professionally in the 40s. I didn't know they had lacrosse back in the 40s.
He originally put up the $500 to start the Yorktown program.
It's unbelievable. And so the program is alive today. And in 1989, they wanted to have a memorial game for Charlie Murphy. He actually started the lacrosse program with somebody named Jim Turnbull.
Jim Turnbull, yes.
Tell me about him.
Yeah. No, Jim coached at the very beginning. Jim coached, and Charlie Murphy is from Princeton, moved up to Yorktown, and he played lacrosse down in Princeton, but down then, and he put up the $500 to start the program that the schools didn't have. So, Yorktown's a powerhouse for lacrosse, just because we're the first ones to the table, and he put the seed money up to start the whole program.
Yeah, and look what he built.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
just
it's
we're
a
known for
dynasty.
we're known for lacrosse across the nation.
And
You tell people you're from Yorktown, and they immediately, oh, lacrosse. If they're sports people.
and not even that, but just like all the good teams in Westchester, they're all coached by Yorktown kids. You know, all the alumni.
So Yorktown High School outscored the Rebels, and we won the game in Yorktown here 7-5. Although I don't know who really won or lost. I mean, it's all Yorktown. So, but it's a great rivalry. Seeing the kids, they're like high fiving themselves on opposite teams, and then they're like, they're screaming at each other at the same time. It's really just another one of our great traditions. I had a long weekend. I was in SUNY Geneseo. Proudly to see my daughter graduate her undergrad in psychology. I had to move her out too. I wasn't so proud about that. Very, very, very emotional time. But I'm very proud of. She's on her way to her MBA. Congrats to Maddie. It was really a great ceremony and a lot of lifting. It was just a lot.
Very uplifting of
Yeah, it was very
furniture.
uplifting. I don't know who was more emotional about it. But life is full of ups and downs, and to be quite honest, I did get a call from Ed on Sunday, and he informed me that Luke Ratschmidt had passed away, 38 years old, and it's just I know unfortunately firsthand how it feels to lose a sibling. I know what it's done to my parents. My heart goes out to Jim and Patty. I don't know how how they're making it through. I can't. Unfortunately, I can't say I can't imagine because I've seen it, and it's just my heart goes out to them. So I'm going to end it with that, and that's why I wasn't around this weekend, by the way, for the festival, which I wish I could have made, but there's just too many things to do. But I'm going to cut it short. Glad to see everybody here tonight. Glad that the weather is turning finally. Hopefully it stays that way. Pat?
Yes. So I just want to reiterate what Ed said about the Rochambeau Festival. The speakers were incredible, and they have how many? About 40 volunteers that get dressed up and they reenact it. Next year would be a great thing if you have any kids to bring your kids to this. This is the second year they did it. So the Garden Club, I bought my 2 pots. I just want to put a shout out to the Garden Club. They look absolutely beautiful. They're planted and set up. And on June 8th, we are going to be renaming the Granite Knolls Sports Complex to Tommy Diana Park. That's on June 8th at 9 a.m. So if you're around, we'd love to see you. Okay?
And then that's going to follow up with the naming of the road down by East
Okay,
Main.
yeah,
What time is
yes.
that, Patrick?
Yeah, that's going to be from 10 to 11, right across by John C. Hart Library.
So for those of you that know Tommy, or knew Tommy well, a lot going on right there on East Main Street. The Christmas tree or holiday tree that he planted, the World War II memorial, which has his father plus another, I believe, 5 or 6 Dianas on it from his family members that served, and the Lakeland Deli right there where he and Donna would go for their breakfast on Sunday mornings. It was a very important part of his life, and I think a very fitting place for him to have a dedication of a road.
Yeah.
And there was one thing I did forget, and I apologize because it's a big thing. Our town clerk and Amy, our curator at the museum, have been working very, very hard with Anna Mandera and Maura on getting the museum ready to go with a special commemorative of World War I, II, Vietnam, Korean War uniforms and implements to commemorate those that served our country and paid the ultimate sacrifice. And the plan is to, after the parade, have the museum open from 12 to 2 for any of our veterans to go through, look at it, and it's a real treasure, right here in Yorktown. It's located, for those of you that don't know, in the old 6th grade school, or the Albert A. Cappellini Community and Cultural Center, and it's a really, really wonderful place to just get lost. And Diana and I were having a meeting there yesterday, and I think we spent a lot more time looking through things than talking about the stuff we needed to get accomplished. It was really, it's really great. So please take advantage, and our new curator, Amy, has really been doing a fantastic job. Okay, I think that's it.
Oh, yes, yes.
All right.
Fine for me.
All right, we have a couple of proclamations. Sergio?
Yep. This is for Emergency Medical Services Week. This proclamation on this 21st day of May 2024. Whereas the week of May 19th to the 25th, 2024 has been designated as Emergency Medical Services Week, and whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and even at the town board meeting, because they just had to run out on a call. Did you see that? And whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers by designating the Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Edward A. Lachterman, along with the town board of the town of Yorktown, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to the 25th, 2024, as Emergency Medical Services Week. The 50th anniversary of EMS Week theme is EMS Week, honoring our past, forging our future. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. And don't forget to thank them when you see them on the street. Signed, Edward A. Lachterman, Town Supervisor, and Council Members Sergio Esposito, Luciana Howitt, and Patrick Murphy.
So at this time, if I could have the two presidents, or I think we have a chief and a president. Is Matt still here, or did he have to run out on that call? Oh, if you guys could come up, we have one for each of the houses here. So one for Mohegan and one for Wyvac.
Thank you. That'll do it.
Matt, why don't you, if you want to say some words, and then
You want me to go grab a picture of you guys first?
we could get one after.
Okay. I figured you were there, you know?
First off, I want to thank everyone for having us here tonight. Our plans got mixed up. A bunch of us are dual members in Mohegan. We're firefighters and ambulance members, so we got caught on a fire call for a little bit. So not everyone could be here tonight. Just want to thank everybody for continuing to support us, and we can't do what we do without the help from you all. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Now Rick Davin has a couple of words.
Sure. Good evening. I'll keep it short. I'll try to keep it short. For those who don't know me, Rick Davin, Captain of the Yorktown Volunteer Ambulance Corps. As the supervisor said, this week we are celebrating the 50th annual National EMS Week. EMS Week brings together local communities and medical personnel to provide honor and dedication to those who provide the day-to-day life-saving services of medicine's front line. This year, as we recognize the 50th anniversary of the first National EMS Week, we honor those who came before us, especially those who challenged the status quo and raised the bar for all of us. The theme, Honoring Our Past, Forging Our Future, empowers us to remember the pioneers who made emergency medical services what it is today, encourages us to face the future of EMS with the same tenacity and drive for excellence. Through it all, EMS continues to respond, support, and care for the needs of our communities. Now more than ever, it is important that we honor and celebrate our EMS professionals who are supporting the health and well-being of our nation. As you might be aware, these are particularly trying times for all EMS agencies. Although YVAC has held strong throughout the years, volunteerism is still not flourishing. This year marks the 61st anniversary for YVAC, and the last 2 years were our highest call volumes ever, peaking at 1,842 calls for service in 2022 and 1,711 calls for service in 2023. This averages out to a 30% increase over the past 10 years. Right now, I would like to recognize 2 YVAC members who have hit a milestone in YVAC history. YVAC has never recognized a member for 50 years as an active writing member. These 2 individuals are true pioneers and cornerstones to the YVAC legacy. It is my honor to invite these 2 members to join me while I tell you a little about each one. Jeff and Rich, would you come up? First of all, Mr. Cariello, face the board. Rich has been an active member since 1974. And by the way, they both joined when they were 5. That's why they... 3, okay. He's been an active member since 1974. He was a past captain for 14 years, a past chairman of the board, and held numerous committee chairman positions. Rich has received numerous life-saving awards, delivered a set of twins, received the Westchester County EMT of the Year Award, and is a Vietnam veteran. Please join me in congratulating Rich on his accomplishment of 50 years of service to the YVAC and the community.
Impressive, Rich.
Don't leave.
You
Mr.
gotta
Siegel.
stay there, Rich.
Jeff has also been an active member since 1974. He was a past captain for 11 years and has held every other line officer position at least once. He currently serves as the vice chairman on our board. Jeff has received 8 life-saving awards and in 2004 received the Westchester County EMT of the Year Award. Please join me in congratulating Jeff on his accomplishment of 50 years of active service. One last thing. Lastly, a special thank you to all the YVAC professionals for your continued support and assistance. We understand and appreciate the time commitment you have shown during these last few years of extraordinary circumstances. YVAC membership remains strong. However, we need more volunteers to help with the increased volume. If you're interested, please go to our website, yvac.net.
All right, and before you sit down, gentlemen, I have proclamations commemorating your 50 years of service. I will not go through them both, but I think we all say not only congratulations, but God bless you for your service to our community.
Impressive time.
Yeah. Could I take a minute and just ask all of our EMS workers to come up for a quick photo? right, next up, we did not get a chance last week to honor Police Week, and I think, Patrick, you have a
Yes.
proclamation?
Got a proclamation. Okay. National Police Week. Whereas police officers embody the highest ideals of service, sacrifice, risking their lives every day to uphold the law, preserve public safety, and safeguard the rights and freedoms of all individuals. And whereas law enforcement officers are dedicated guardians to our communities, devoted themselves to protecting and serving with courage, integrity, and honor. And whereas Police Week provides an opportunity to honor the memories of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, paying tribute to their valor, selflessness, and express gratitude for their profound contributions to our society. And whereas
Police Week.
Police Week, okay. I thought just started with police. Whereas Police Week also serves as a time to express appreciation to the commitment of law enforcement who confront adversity and unwavering resolve, compassion, and empathy to our community safer, stronger, and more resilient. And whereas the town of Yorktown is grateful to our courageous officers under the leadership of Robert Noble, Chief of Police, who selflessly puts himself in harm's way to protect the town, the families, and our community. Now, there be resolved that I, Supervisor Ed Lackerman, along with the Town Board of Yorktown, do hereby recognize National Police Week and publicly salute the service and law enforcement officers of our community in our communities across the nation.
Officer, if you could come up and accept that for the police department. Got it, Patrick? Thank you. Hey, you're turning red. All righty. I will now call on our poet laureate, John. We missed you last week, John.
Yes, welcome back, John.
One statement on the lacrosse before. My son didn't go to school in the area, but he played on the traveling soccer team here. And one of the best that won the Northern Westchester Championship. But one of the players on it then went to Syracuse and became a four-time All-American, Ricky Beardsley.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Rick Beardsley.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he played one of the early Murphy games.
Yes, he coaches up at Ridgefield.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, this is the most personal poem that I've ever read here. Nova. A nova is a star that gets brighter and brighter as it lights the sky. We picked up on Nova, a tiny Yorkie puppy, a week ago yesterday, just one day short of her 3-month birthday. Fowler the Wonder Dog died 3 weeks ago today, after 14 wonderful years. Nova the Magnificent will not replace her in our hearts, but already gives every impression that she will stand with her in the warmth that she brings to our life. Thank you.
Very nice, John.
Diana?
Thank you, John. All right, we have some personnel issues to go through real quick. From Human Resource Department, appoint Mark Bistro to the position of Water Service Worker in the Water Department. Appoint Mark Rapisarda to the position of Police Lieutenant in the Yorktown Police Department. And this will be first date of appointment, June 3rd. Appoint John Doherty to the position of Police Sergeant in the Yorktown Police Department. And that'll be first date of appointment, June 3rd. Authorize Samuel Sansone to be paid a stipend of $280.76 per pay period for the performance of the duties of Administrative Sergeant of the Detective Bureau. And appoint Kelby Castullo to the position of Police Officer in the Yorktown Police Department. And I believe these are all as of June 3rd. A really big congratulations to the promotions in our department. Rapisardo will be an amazing lieutenant, and I am sure as well that Dougherty will be fantastic as well. And the work that Sam Sansone has been doing and will continue is moving up to the sergeant of detectives. Just we have an amazing police force and three very well-deserving gentlemen.
Three great guys, three great individuals,
Yeah.
hardworking,
Absolutely.
dedicated.
And I hear some great things about Kelby that's coming on board. And, you know what, we have one of the greatest police departments in New York, if not further. And we thank you guys every day for what you do. All right, may I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And I forgot one, but actually I want to do this one alone anyway, when you talk about someone deserving. Authorized change to cook position in the nutrition department to eliminate Group 5, keep Group 8, and add Group 10 effective June 3rd. And be it further resolved that Franz Rahm, who is a permanent as cook, to be moved to Group 10, Step 5, to a salary of $71,483 annually. I mentioned earlier the parties and the events that happen at the Nutrition Center. I've spoken many times about the camaraderie that is there. It's not just a meal, but Franz is, he used to be the chef at Jennifer's German restaurant. He is a world-class chef, and he does an amazing job there. Our seniors love him. The preparation of the food, not only for the senior center, but for the Meals on Wheels, that not only affects Yorktown, but they do Cortland and Somers. And, he really helps people all the time, always smiling, always a great guy, and very well deserving of this promotion. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Fantastic.
I did bingo. Everybody look forward to Franz's cooking afterwards.
Yes. Yeah, but I hear I'm on the outs in the senior center now because they like their new bingo caller in
I don't
Patrick.
know, Sergio.
All right. Mr. Tegeter, can you come up? We were going to have a little discussion. We've been getting some people looking for doggy daycare in the area, and we probably need to look at some legislation.
That's correct. Doggy daycare, otherwise known as pet care facilities, seem to be a burgeoning use in the area and maybe in the region. So with the inquiries that we've been having in all of our zones, nearly all of our zones, two right now we have that are quite serious about coming to town. And we took it upon ourselves to look through and research whether there's legislation out there. And there are some towns that have and are in the process of adopting legislation. So I thought it may be a good idea to propose to you guys to see if you had an appetite to move forward and start to take a look at some possible legislation. And I happen to think that it should be some type of special permit that you can add into the zones that seem to be appropriate. Wouldn't be blanket in all zones. You could start small and see how things go, but I thought that was probably something that might well be looked at. I do have one here sample that the Village of Mamaroneck is either in the process of doing or have done, and just as an example, they have some regulations that you don't find in any of the underlying zones that are peculiar to this type of use, which would be things that happen outdoors. You have to have an outdoor run, an outdoor place for them to go potty. You have to keep it clean. So some of those things probably are best regulated and not unregulated. So it's that type of thing that I think bears some scrutiny and possible legislation. So.
Well, I know we've had the conversation, and I definitely think that we need to address it.
Yeah.
People want to come into town. It's a very viable business. The pet industry as a whole is fantastic, and I think that Yorktown has some unique features that really will bode well for that type of facility. So, I don't know how you gentlemen feel.
I mean, I think you're right. There are some peculiar characteristics for something like that. I would add in potentially, depending on where the location is, for the actual, store or whatever, the internal office, soundproofing. I think that should be, mandated or as a requirement as part of this potentially new legislation. Especially if you have a location that you've picked and it has an adjacent wall to other businesses or surrounding areas. If it's in a residential area, or close to a residential area, you have dog barking and stuff like that, and that kind of sound carries a lot. The hygienic portion of it, I think, is extremely. You like that one, hygienic?
I do like
that was
that
pretty
one.
good. That was
I'm going to use it in our legislation.
That's it, hygienic. So, I think, but, all joking aside, I mean, that's
very important.
that needs to be regulated and it needs to be kept clean. And
Sure.
So there are some, important, believe it or not, some important things that need to be addressed.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a demand for these types of businesses, but it would probably be worth reaching out to like Guiding Eyes and find out what their pitfalls are and, learn from them.
Sure.
They do have a kennel in operation up in Patterson, but I think it's a little different of an operation from one of the doggy daycares.
The difference is it's a kennel, which
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a particular definition somewhere, but I guess in the parlance, kennel would be something in a small pen that you keep the dogs for training or whatever, or overnight boarding that we're used to as terms of kennels. The doggy daycares, it's really open and the dogs roam free in a room together. So it's a little bit different than that. And,
Yes.
and doggy daycare owners will certainly champion that difference.
Oh,
And that's a
absolutely.
big difference, that's one of the considerations,
When our dogs got expelled from canine
Yes,
kindergarten,
okay.
they ended up in a kennel, which is all supposed to be free range. So it was all Olivia's fault, Bentley tells me, but she's not here to defend herself
No,
anymore.
that's right.
No, if you could pull some sample legislation, get together with Adam, and
Yeah.
then
Do other towns have like X amount of square footage of
Yeah, this one
grass?
one
runs?
does, yeah.
Okay.
So appreciate it, John.
Thank you, John.
Good, so I'll have something in a week or two. One quick question, do you have the Toll Brothers to speak tonight? I think he's here, but I didn't see them on the actual agenda.
I thought, well, we are talking about, we have Barton and the Judas coming in, or the resolution for that, so perhaps we could have them come up at that point.
Okay, that's fine.
So at this time, we'll open the floor for public comment. I will, as a reminder, you can always contact us. You don't have to wait for courtesy of the floor. You can always call Town Hall, our town officials, our town departments. We are here to work for you. You can visit the town's website, www.yorktownny.org. You can find all the contact information for everybody here on the dais, town clerk, even town attorney, and of course your elected officials. As a reminder, there's a 3-minute limit on your comments for courtesy of the floor. We ask you keep them directed to the town board, and we ask as always that your comments remain focused and respectful. All right.
Hi, good evening, Susan Siegel.
Good evening, Susan.
I'm going to put on my hat as chairman of the Yorktown Trailtown Committee. Thank you for the heads up about our day. I would just like to repeat, we are very excited to have this ribbon cutting ceremony Saturday, June 1st at 10 a.m. on the bridge, okay? For those who don't know, somebody asked me today, how do I get to that bridge? Okay, it's like, and for years it was called the Bridge to Nowhere until it got its official name, the Atomic Veterans Memorial Bridge. But it was actually, this is the only pedestrian-only bridge over the Taconic Parkway, and it was built specifically because the people in Yorktown asked the DOT to build it. So there's a long, long history, and there are the 2 kiosks. There's one on both sides of the bridge. One explains the history of the bridge, And the second one, which we're very excited about, explains how, how that bridge links 3 town parks, Woodlands Legacy, Sylvan Glen, and Granite Knolls. There'll be, so the ceremony will be on the bridge, but we will start at the Woodlands Legacy parking lot, which is off Strang Boulevard. Okay, it's like less than a 5-minute, very easy hike to the bridge. And then for those who are more adventuresome, Yorktown Trail Town would be leading a hike to the giant boulder in Granite Knolls East. It's about a 1.5-hour round trip hike, which it's really amazing, you know, to see that. We have invited Linda Cooper, who is our former supervisor, who was very instrumental in doing that, and we urge you all to attend. I think you'd love it. It's a wonderful asset to Yorktown. Taking off that hat, let me just put on my regular Susan Siegel hat. Could you give us an update on my favorite topic, fluoridation? About a month ago, you said we learned that the health department now wanted some new chlorine monitoring equipment. I saw Dan Stiarcia the other night at the planning board. He said, we're working on it. We know which vendor, the one we usually get these kinds of equipment from. I asked him how much it would cost, $4,000, $400,000. I had no idea. He said maybe about $4,000, so we're not talking about big money. So when can we expect this to get installed so we can turn the switch and have the fluoride on? It's been 12 long years, okay? And so what's holding up getting this one piece of equipment? Thank you. I'll see you all on June 1st, 10 a.m. at Woodlands Legacy parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roseanne Guzzo, and I live at 46 Granite Springs Road. I've lived in Yorktown for 38 years. I am very concerned with the proposal to put a cell tower at the site located behind my home and my neighbors. I have many questions regarding how the assessment firm came up with the answers on their form submitted for this project. We don't have time tonight to go over all of it, but we can at the public hearing. I am not an engineer, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see some of the false answers. Cell phone towers emit electromagnetic radiation, which has been linked to various health concerns in humans and disrupt the delicate balance of our ecosystems. I am deeply concerned with the impact that a cell tower will have on my neighbors, their children, especially children with disabilities. There are recent reports out stating the dangers from cell towers, not only doing damage to humans, but wildlife too. We can debate this issue when given more time. I am also very concerned with the impact on the ecosystem and wildlife habitat on the land that was donated by a family who insisted it would be used as park area. Wildlife relies on natural habitats for survival. This is an area with wetlands, forestry, and many different animals, birds, including bats. Placing cell phone towers behind houses can interfere with migration patterns, disrupt nesting sites, and alter behaviors crucial for survival of wildlife. I do not understand how permission would be granted to remove wetlands and over 120 trees in this project. Yorktown is losing too many trees in construction projects. Imagine the distress of birds and nocturnal animals whose habitat is flooded with electromagnetic waves. Behind the said area, not far from where the tower is to be built, is beautiful farmland, Stewart's Farm. How will this impact the farm and agriculture? Another big issue concerning me is the flooding that will occur. Our grounds get saturated now when we get a rainstorm. We also have septic systems. Oh yes, I've been waiting for sewers for 38 years, but that's another story for a different meeting. If you remove all of these trees, what impact will that have on the soil and water runoffs? I am asking all of you to be responsible stewards of our town. It is all of our duty to prioritize the well-being of all living creatures. We should not allow the convenience of modern technology to come at the expense of humans or wildlife. I hope you will explore alternative solutions that minimize the impact on the residents and wildlife by putting a cell tower up at this location. Find the balance that preserves the well-being of people, nature, and the digital age. And thank you.
Thank you.
And keep me updated.
Will do, Roseanne.
Shall I give one of these to you, Diane? Thank you.
Good evening, Jan Mirchandani.
Evening, Jan.
Hey, Jen.
I just wanted to raise the issue. I was very disappointed to hear that the revisions to the ethics law was passed last week with very little of the public input being taken into consideration. In particular, and I had mentioned this at the public hearing, that one of my grave concerns is removing the word indirect. And I know that our town attorney had said that it's redundant, but I would just like to point out that the word direct was left in both of those clauses where we removed the word indirect, and only one clause refers back to the previous definitions of interest. So, you know, we spend a lot of time talking about the ATV laws and it being enforceable, different laws being enforceable. Having a really muddy definition and unclear and inconsistent definitions in this law makes it very difficult to enforce that. So I just wanted to point that out. You know, there was also the loophole about accepting gifts, and I know, Ed, one of the things that you had mentioned is, you know, when people want to give gifts, they should be allowed to do so. And, you know, again, I think just adding the very subjective language around the exception really raises a lot of concerns, again, in terms of enforcement. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should be doing it. And more importantly, perhaps, part of the issue that was raised by the Ethics Board back when, several years ago, was really improving the independence of the Ethics Board as it relates to the town board. And I think that the language around having the town attorney being the one who decides whether or not there's a conflict of interest, I think goes against that, that particular concern. And lastly, in terms of the transparency, improving transparency was another concern. And again, this was not, there was nothing that was done that improves transparency. There remains no requirement to report any kind of ethics violations in any way publicly. This allows any potential violations to remain in the dark, behind closed doors. Complainants are not required to receive any kind of information about what is being done with any complaint. So I think that those are some really serious concerns that unfortunately I think we missed the opportunity to address. So I just wanted to raise that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tina Rascona. I'm a resident of 38 Granite Springs Road. Like Roseanne, I'm here in regards to the cell tower. I have to be honest, I've never been to a town hall meeting. And there was like talk of celebrations and doggy daycare and all of that is wonderful. But I just think it's awful that I have to come here to advocate for the health of my children. I've read numerous health articles that state that there are many health concerns that having a cell tower close to a home raises. Electromagnetic radiation could lead to a range of adverse health effects, including a correlation to cancer, headaches, sleep disturbance, and further cognitive impairment, all of which can disproportionately affect individuals with ASD. I do have a child with autism, as well as 3 daughters. And to think that they can possibly get sick from this, it makes me sick. You know, if you have children, if you have grandchildren, this is going to be in my backyard. Is this something you'd want for your own families? Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Hi, I'm Jean Pollock. I also live on Granite Springs Road, and when Roseanne and Nisa, Tina's daughter, came last night and said they were going to be speaking here tonight, we are neighbors, we get along well, but when they said they were going to speak against the cell tower, I wholeheartedly approve that it be studied thoroughly, and I've heard various things about what kind of remedial plantings and what the distance would be from the house. I would want to make sure it's safe. I'm across the street, to be honest, but I have extremely poor cell phone service. I sometimes have to go up to the cemetery in Quaker Church Road to make a call or come here into town. So I just would like to say we need a cell tower, and with all due diligence being done ahead of time, making sure it's the appropriate distance from the specific homeowners that would be most affected, I still think we need a cell tower. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Dan Strauss, 58-year resident. A few weeks ago, I mentioned people parking in no parking and no standing fire zones in the Heights section. And it's only fitting tonight that you honor the EMTs and first responders. I believe people who do that, who park in the repeatedly, and businesses who operate in those zones, fire zones, are jeopardizing the lives of the people you honor. And I believe it should stop. They also jeopardize other people's lives. So I will say it again tonight. I do not know why people are allowed to do that and why businesses are allowed to conduct business in those zones. Someone cleared the weeds on Commerce Street this last week. I don't know who it was, and I appreciate it. I was going to get my just something and just try and get rid of them on the trees, under the trees, on the pavers, right next to the plants, the garden club plant. I can't do that anymore. I did it for 7 years. I can't weed Yorktown Heights. So I appreciate whoever did that. And I think you should find the money to be able to weed the town, the curbs and the pavers. I believe there's enough money available, and to find someone to do it. Because weeds are a sign of neglect. I appreciate what Franz does at the senior center. They do a great job there. I understand that there is an elevator shortage in that same building. When I say that, I mean it doesn't work, as far as I know. And that impacts a lot of people who go over there. So maybe you could let me know what's going on with that, because a few people have asked me that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Karen Erickson. I live at 54 Granite Springs Road. I'm here tonight to discuss and oppose the proposed alienation of the parkland along Granite Springs Road. My house is directly adjacent to this property. I find it concerning and honestly unacceptable that as the property owner who is directly adjacent to this property, that I was not notified by the town that this was on the agenda for tonight. It is also hard to understand how, when I look at the tentative agenda that came out yesterday, this item was not included. As someone who signed up to receive emails of all town meeting agendas, I question that the final agenda, with a significant amount of items added, was emailed out this evening at 5:19 because I received the email. It does not provide people with the chance to arrange to attend a meeting in such short notice. And in an effort to ensure transparency and fair opportunity to express our concerns over the alienation and development of this property, owners who will be impacted directly impacted should have been notified by the town so they could be here to speak tonight. I am sure that many of my neighbors are completely unaware that this alienation is being discussed. I would like to know specifically which parcel by the lot number is included in this alienation. It is listed as 109 Granite Springs Road, which makes it seem that it is located someplace else when my house is number 54. This property sits between two environmentally protected areas, with one being one of the last working farms in the county that has a conservation easement, and the Halleck's Mills wetland. Development would negatively impact and forever alter the makeup of this protected area. As we all know, the town has actively engaged in lobbying for and receiving millions of dollars in grants to protect this very wetland. Allowing the parkland that protects it on the eastern side to be developed seems counter to the purpose of the grants that the town currently has and the additional grants that it is trying to procure. Upon reading your home rule request, it states that the border is somewhere on Granite Springs Road, but it is not quite clear to me where your borders are. Lastly, I would like to know why it is necessary to alienate the parkland now when, to my knowledge, there is not an actual application before the town to develop this property. I was told by former Supervisor Slater and former Supervisor Tom Diana, who my husband met with on numerous occasions regarding this, that if there was anything happening with this property because it would directly impact us, that we would be notified, and that has not been the case. And it is extremely disappointing that legal action is being taken to alienate a parkland that will remove every tree along the border of my property.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Szewski. I'm also here to talk to you about the proposed antenna project. I'm here to support my neighbors. I'm across the street from Roslyn and across the street with the lady who just spoke, the Ericksons. And I'm here to tell you that I'm here to support my neighbors and to tell you there's many of us who will be opposing this project very much. I don't think any of you would be happy if somebody was putting an antenna in your backyards. Let's just be honest with that. None of you sitting here. It's just the lottery happens to fall on us. So we're the unlucky ones who get an antenna in our backyards. So we're definitely disappointed that there's not more discussion about this, and I wasn't notified. We have a very beautiful area, very nice community of neighbors. We're all close-knit, and all I'm saying is it seems very unfair that there isn't much of a discussion here. Excuse me. And I was reading the write-up in your notes for this meeting, and it says, well, the funds from this project, because I'm assuming you're collecting fees for this, will go to preserving the parklands that are there. What parklands that are there? This is a wetlands. What money is being spent there if it's not being spent on our neighborhood? I've been in that property that I'm talking to you about for 22 years. I've been asking for a sewer for 22 years. I have a problem with my septic field, and nobody seems to be addressing my problems. And you're collecting fees to put a backyard antenna in my backyard, and you're saying, well, you're going to be spending that money to protect the wetlands that are there. Really? I'm having that hard to believe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jay Kopstein. Two comments. First, and I brought this up when Homeland Towers did their presentation. Contrary to popular belief, the location of a cell tower does not necessarily improve cell service in the immediate area. It depends upon the orientation of the antennas. If Homeland Towers is looking to improve cell service in Somers, then it will not benefit Yorktown in that neighborhood at all. That's my first comment. My second comment, and it has to do with local laws and the like. I think the town board should propose a local law either prohibiting or allowing the sun to rise in the morning and set in the evening, because some of the laws we proposed are just as effective or ineffective. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Mark Lieberman, I live on Wells Street. So probably about 6 months ago, I came to tell you something you already know because you studied it over the years, and that is the traffic on Halleck's Mill Road cutting into 202 is a definite problem, and the drivers making that cut through are becoming more and more aggressive. When I'm on 202, which I am a lot, heading towards 132, I have the right of way, but they don't seem to care anymore. So they're coming straight through. Some of them are not stopping. Some of them are maybe slowing down a bit to take a quick glance to see if they can make it. But it's about time you followed up on the studies that were done. Thank you.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Doug Erickson. I also live at 54 Granite Springs Road. And here to discuss the potential placement of a cell tower, communication tower behind my house. So obviously there's not consensus that this is a great choice. A lot of emotion, right, which is obviously clearly understandable. I think my, concerns are similar. There was a lot of promises, assurances from your predecessors that when this type of project was to start to move forward, that there'd be a lot of transparency, a lot of communication about what's happening and how it might be, able to be mitigated related to the proximity to us. And the observation that things like, 2 hours before the meeting is when you actually post some of the communication around an issue that's related to this doesn't speak to being transparent. And perception of that is reality, right? People's perception is reality, that there's some effort to do this without full disclosure, without the full communication of what's happening and the ability to perhaps, have a discussion about it. So that's concerning. There was also mentioned, we're talking about a piece of land that a developer made many efforts to develop for his benefit. And when you refuse that for the reason that there's a wetland that we can't possibly go through because those are protected, he decided the next best thing to do perhaps then to get it off of his tax roll was to donate it to you for parkland. So it's very ironic, again, that we're now going to take his donation that was intended to be now park, covenanted in his deed, and now we're going to supersede that and turn it into a project. I don't know that that speaks well to other people who might be wanting to donate things to the town with the expectation that it might be left in the way that they desired before they passed, because he's no longer here now to speak for himself. So that's concerning. The defined need is not debated. I do believe in some parts of town, ours has gotten better, but as you go to Curry Street and down into Douglas, there are some areas that need some service. But I have not seen any evidence from Homeland or anyone else that says this 130-foot tower is the only solution to provide that service. There are a lot of other ways to boost cell service that are less invasive, smaller towers, different signaling boosting devices, and I haven't seen any evidence. Homeland certainly gets the best benefit from a 130-foot tower because they're in the money-making business, and they can sell that to a much bigger audience and make a much bigger amount of revenue. I think it's our obligation, your obligation, to explore whether that's the best way to get the solution for your residents, because your job is not to help them make a bigger profit. Your job is to solve a problem for your constituents, which I perfectly understand. But I don't think that this is necessarily doing that. And I haven't seen that we've demonstrated that there's a way to do this only this way. I'll just leave with, I speak my arborist role here now as I am an arborist. We're in a room full of posters, and what do they all say? What's the most important thing in this room based on the walls in this room? Trees are important. So here's another project removing over 100 trees, some of them over 100 years old, in addition to all the other projects that have occurred in the recent past in town that have removed trees And yet I just saw recently on a post on the website how we're celebrating we're a Tree City, USA. So it seems a little bit in conflict as well. So,
Thanks,
that's my
Tom.
observations.
Okay, anyone else for courtesy of the floor? All right. So I will start with an apology about the lateness of the agenda. We were waiting on a few things to get in. The clerk and I were working on it for about 2 hours this afternoon to try to get everything on and make sure when it was released properly. Just for the, for part of it, today is not the public hearing. Today is not about a lot of these issues that are coming up. There is a possibility that the state assembly and senate could say, we don't want to alienate the land, and then this project would be dead. We need to get that process moving to find out one way or another if there's anything else. But we will move ahead with the public comment and the public hearings to make sure that that does happen. But by no means was it an intention to not get that information out there. But there was a lot of, I think we went from 3 pages to the agenda that you see today, this afternoon, with a lot of things coming in. Adam, do you want to speak a little bit about alienation?
Yeah, sure. So it's a preliminary step in a long process. The issues that were raised are important issues, and they're going to be addressed in the context of the public hearing, the wetland-specific concerns, the cutting of trees, any landscaping mitigation that has to happen, alternative technologies. I mean, these are all issues that will be addressed at the appropriate time. That's not tonight. Tonight is really just a preliminary step to see, as the supervisor said, whether the state would even authorize the alienation. Okay, if that happens, we can move forward to the next step where these concerns can be raised in the proper context, and they'll be considered and evaluated in determining, whatever mitigation has to happen if the project moves forward. As he said, the state could not authorize it, and it's not going anywhere. So this is tonight. The board is not deciding tonight this project's going to happen. That may or may not happen on another day. That's not happening tonight. So just want to make that abundantly clear. I mean, I can get into all the details, but like in terms of restrictive covenants, the land, if it was donated without a restriction on any improvements being made, then it allows for improvements. Or to your concern, I mean, that it could have been donated with that caveat, with some sort of restriction. It wasn't. So that's just
Actually, if I could jump in there, because Doug and I had a conversation where I met at his house, and we were speaking about another option to coming in, and that property does have a restrictive covenants on it. So it derails it. I had to talk not only with the property owner, but with the supervisor in Somers. And, for Adam's point, that land specifically has a protective covenant that prohibits anything from happening on it.
to be clear, there is a
we can't comment. Sorry.
There is a restriction that it's for parkland purposes, which is why you need authorization from the state, right? It's dedicated parkland, which is why you need to go to the state for alienation authorization. The state could say no, as everyone's sort of indicated.
All right. Another couple things. Roseanne, I'm sorry, we can't have the conversation through. Another couple things, and it was brought up. There is a balance, as was brought up a few times, and there are safety issues. I fully expect that it'll get discussed a lot more at the public hearing, especially on when we talk about safety issues, the safety of the electromagnetic waves that we're worried about, but as well as the lack of cell phone service in that area, because as was pointed out, well, I need your service, but as was pointed out, when you can't make a phone call, if you need to call 911 or EMS, it's bad. I know that I cannot call our assemblyman when he's home on his cell phone because he doesn't get it. I have to text him so he could either move or call me from a landline, and he lives in the range that would be there. There was a survey done by actually another company on all the cell phones and where towers would be needed to help increase that service, and that this was one of the areas that was pointed out.
Right, that wasn't done by Homeland Towers. That was
Correct.
done by an independent third party.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see, and thank you for pointing out the mitigation plans, because, you know, when you talk about Tree City, part of that is the replanting of trees. We do know that trees come down when there are projects, and we actually, I think, are one of the few, if not the only towns around with a tree garden where we plant trees that could be replenished, and we're trying to work out a few better ways to help that serve the citizens of Yorktown when they need trees and something happens. So
We
that
also
is
have,
one-
we also have the tree law.
right.
Right,
And
so-
that's part of that, and the mitigation is part of that.
Right.
For the no parking zones, Dan, you're right. I actually asked someone to move from in front of Dunkin' Donuts the other day. Got the finger for it, but that is what it is. And I know that businesses, like, they used to have a business that would do your windshield wiper blades, and they've been asked to have their customers move around to the back of the building versus the front. I haven't seen anyone out there lately, but that was asked. And I have spoken to our police, traffic officers about that enforcement in the zones, and they have been increasing the tickets, and hopefully that makes a difference. The elevator, we did pass or put out for bid for the parts, and we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. You may have missed that meeting. No? Okay. Well, we're waiting on the bids to come back. We have to replace all of the mechanical parts, and it's a little more difficult than not, because we can't just get a whole unit with the box. The box is smaller than what they make nowadays because the chute is smaller. So rather than patchwork it, which they had been doing, I asked them to get a bid for the full kit and caboodle, and let's get this fixed properly and not just keep throwing good money after bad. As soon as things get in, you know, we have the money put aside, and we are, you know, as soon as a bid is there, we'll get it. Sometimes it does, and there was one other thing that we were talking about in here, which I'll probably find, but sometimes, especially with coming out of COVID, you can't get the things you need. You can't get the parts that easily. So a large part of supply and demand does affect what we deal with. I know we wanted to order a dump truck to hopefully get in by November, and they're like, yeah, I wouldn't bank on that. You might be waiting quite a while for that. There was conversation about the sewers and about the septic tanks, and, you know, that is part of what we are trying to get grant money for. When you talk about the environment, we're trying to get the sewer systems going. It's been actually longer than I've lived in Yorktown, and I've been here 30 years, that they've been trying to sewer that area. We are in for a $10 million grant right now with the federal government. Part of the issue has not been us being tied up, and this also goes into the fluoride. The last time it went into Board of Health, it took 18 months to get it back out. Then when it went up to the state, it took another 9 or 10 months, I believe. And by the time it came back, the project, with the add-ons from the Board of Health and the time and everything going up in price, the project went up about 50%, from 14 to 21 million. We are trying to get more grant money to offset. We have 10 million from the east of Hudson. It is something that I would love to see happen. You know, if you talk to my wife, she'll tell you about swimming at both Junior and Sparkle Lake when she was a kid. You can't do that anymore. You know, it's just our ecology is not safe for that. And, you know, I'd love nothing more to see that happen, especially on my watch, and I will keep pushing for that. There was some questions on ethics, and Adam, I'll have you go through the specifics in the law. People should not be allowed to give gifts. I never said that. There's a policy on that, Jan. What I did say, though, is, like, I have friends that have been family friends for decades, And if I go out to dinner with one of them and they want to pick up a check, there may be an issue there because they might have something coming before the board. Is that a unethical thing to go out to dinner with your friends? I don't personally think so. So there's, and I usually will not let someone pay, but sometimes someone will get up from a table and pay a check when they're up at the table, give a credit card. It happens. I just, there's definitely a fine line, but Adam could talk about the direct and indirect.
Not only that, I believe there was a comment that the board can hide the decisions. I thought there was some, I'm almost positive there's something in there that says we have 60 days to disclose. Isn't that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know where the confusion is, and I don't know if it's because it was missed or, the red lines, because, we did a red line after the red line, right? Maybe, if you look at the second version, you might not see the change, but we did make a significant change that requires the board to, I think within 60 days, disclose the advisory opinions of the ethics boards on complaints. So, there was complaint about lack of transparency. I'm not really sure. I don't get it, is I guess is what I'm saying. In terms of indirect and direct, there's no substantive change. It's pretty clear. And I don't know what else to say about that. I've said it before.
Right. And Susan, fluoride.
Oh, and by the way,
yes,
that was a recommendation of the ethics board to remove the word indirect.
Yes, by Jim Materano Sr. I
The
believe.
ethics board actually wrote the new ethics code. just saying.
So the fluoride, they have ordered the part, waiting for it to come in. As soon as it is, I think they've already planned the announcement about the start that it's supposed to go out with the bills. Board of Health, just so people are aware, dictates that when you start fluoridating the water, again, that we notify everyone in that area about the fluoridation. That not only includes Yorktown, but our water runs into Somers, so Westchester Joint Waterworks is trying to put that out with their billing structure, so everyone is aware of it. But once again, I've said it, if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. A lot of times we are held back by the regulations that are in place, and we have to follow the laws and make sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed. And when it comes to the fluoridation project, we were at the finish line and they moved the goalposts on us. This part of it we knew had to happen, but they won't let it happen until you get back to the finish line again, and then you could cross over the goal line. So as soon as I get an update, which will probably be at my next Northern Joint Waterworks meeting, unless Matt has some information for me beforehand, we'll make sure you know it. I'll email you if I get something in advance. Okay? Anything else?
No, so just to reiterate the point about the cell tower, guys, today, when there's no decision being made, we're not authorizing anything, we're not saying it's okay to build the cell tower, we're not saying start tomorrow, right? What we're doing is we're waiting on the state, and then once that happens, depending on, just like the town attorney said, then we'll set, if it's potentially possible, we'll set a public hearing where you guys can come, and the notices will go out and that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure that you understand there wasn't really any lack of transparency. We're not really deciding anything tonight, except that we're saying, hey, we got to wait on the state.
Let's start.
All right, and we understand your concerns. My parents live on Granite Springs too. They live on Gomer, but close enough, I think. All right. So.
All right.
Traffic. Mark's traffic at Alex Mill.
Oh, yes, Mark. I believe that when the studies came back, they said that some of the solutions would actually make the problem worse. I have seen that same aggressive driving because I've come up that road. I just got cut off 2 days ago on my way across to get gas, and there are just some really irresponsible drivers. Oh, no, our police can, but there's nowhere for them to sit right there, and especially during rush hour traffic, which is where they're coming through.
And they also do police it. I mean, but you just can't be there 24/7. That
Right.
you can't be everywhere. We could have a police state and have a cop on every 2 feet.
Yeah. Well,
Separated.
we're 42 square miles, and we have people that complain that we spend too much on policing already. To cover 42 square miles with sector cars, our PD would be happy. We'd have a lot of cars out there. But they do police it. They do, one of the most effective ways to do it is to sit back and catch someone, flip on the lights. There's really no place to sit there. As you know, that road is very narrow and congested as you come through.
The other issue there is too is me. I was just on that road there and trying to pull out. Like the stop sign is set back because the corner kind of curves out. So it's kind of like it just invites you to pass the stop sign in order just to see what you're doing, so you could see, so you could try to pull out. It's just a bad, section there,
Yeah. But I will bring it up again with our traffic safety officers, and ask them to spend a little extra time there as well and see what they could do, how they feel they could set up and safely watch to make sure that they can enforce it better. All right. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, I think I'm good.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up, Patrick. All right, we'll go over to public hearings. First, a decision to amend Chapter 275 of the Code of Town of Yorktown entitled Vehicles and Traffic. So we want to amend Chapter 275, Section 275-4J of the Code by adding the following section, 275-4J7. It shall be unlawful to park a commercial vehicle, including trailers, with or without trailer registration plates, on the New York Route 6 service road adjacent to the Town of Yorktown Golf Course from, and we have the coordinates here, unless said vehicle is engaged in the process of delivery or rendition of services to the town's golf course. Do we have a motion to make this amendment?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Now we have a public hearing to consider amending Section 216-2 of the Code of the Town of Yorktown entitled Peace and Good Order. Adam?
Yeah, so we made proposed revisions to the code that set out specific thresholds for violations, basically, specific decibel levels, so that there was clarity on what can be found permissible and what's, unreasonable, sort of per se, what's a violation per se. It gives some objectivity to it and doesn't leave it to complete, to a discretionary sort of
Right,
finding.
to have measurable
Yeah,
standards.
which I think is fair for businesses, for residents, for everybody, so everybody knows sort of what the ground rules are. That's what we did.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak? We will open the public hearing on our noise ordinance.
Hey, Michael Beeks. I just happened the other night to listen to the planning board's discussion on this. And then so I went in and looked at the legislation. I also looked at Jay Kopstein had posted New York City's ordinance related to noise. And it just appears to me as an engineer that it's a very, very simplistic to just say that you can just take a meter and walk up to your property line and measure the noise coming from a neighbor, like a party or sound system, or in our case we have one of the neighbors down the hill. He's got a race car that he tunes at random times because it doesn't account for ambient noise. It doesn't account for noise it generates. It's to me oversimplistic and possibly I think unenforceable. That if for anybody that was given one of these violations to go to court and say, look, measuring sound, how much of the sound did you measured was just ambient sound, for example, the wind blowing. Looking at New York City's law, which is in 23 pages versus 3 pages on yours, I think one of the steps that I'm going to personally take is just look at other towns in the area and what they're doing to see if anybody's including a more detailed analysis on how to do these measurements.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening, Susan Siegel. I think amending and upgrading the noise ordinance is long overdue, so I thank you for that. I have a question about how the law is going to be enforced. Jay, he's not here, but he made somewhat amusing comment about the sun rising and setting. But laws look good on paper, but if they're not enforced, if they can't be enforced, the law is useless. It looks good, but it's useless. So I'd like you to elaborate on how this would be enforced. For example, you've got to have the equipment to measure the decibel level. Will every police car on duty, I think there are 4 cars per shift, will each car on a shift have the equipment? Or if a call comes in, will the car that's closest to the incident have to go back to police headquarters to get the equipment? All right? Because that could take time and so forth. What are we talking about in terms of the cost for the equipment? Are we talking for a professional level piece of equipment? Are we talking $100 or $1,000? I have no idea. You'd have to set aside money in the budget and make those provisions. So again, the law looks good on paper, and I applaud you for doing something and putting a measurable decibel level, but please look at how it's going to be enforced and make sure that it can be enforced. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, motion to close the public comment.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Adam, you want to address what other municipalities we looked at?
Yeah, I don't recall off the top of my head the exact. I know I looked at Yonkers. I looked at several others throughout the county, and you know, this comports with what they do and how they do it. I didn't look at New York City.
Well, on the
This is
on
not
the
New York City.
On the right, and on the same basis, I think if you have a 23-page law, the understanding and enforcement, the understanding of, especially from our public, is, you know, hey, I'm going to have a party, let me read this 23 pages of law, might be a little cumbersome, to say the least. I do know that our building department bought a decibel meter. We did discuss some of the frequency issues as well, but we're not quite certain that there's a need to go to that level as of yet. The good thing about a law, per se, is if there is some type of an error, we could amend the law. We could get back in there and we could look at it. Is every law going to be perfect? No. Or will we be able to address every issue? I don't think if it's a 23-page law, we would be able to. So we will definitely see if this makes a difference. There have been very few problematic areas, and we're hoping that this gives our police the tool to enforce it, and that it also resonates with the people that have these, that are creating these noise nuisances, to say, hey, maybe we need to be better neighbors and take care of this. So this is a first blush, why we have the public hearing, and why we talk about it. And I think that from a point of view for where we need to be, this is definitely a huge step forward from what we had before, which was literally a subjective, hey, if I think it's loud type of law. And we're putting some measurements, we're putting some time standards, when they could start, when they need to stop by. These are really important issues which give our police something that they can go by.
There's another piece to this that I think may be lost here, which is important, I think, to recognize. This also allows for a neighbor to have a conversation with their neighbor and say, listen, I got this meter here. Look what it's showing, how loud you are. Look at what the code says. And we may not need to, there's a capacity here for self-enforcement, for people to understand how loud they are and that they're violating the code, and maybe they'll shut it down without the need for town involvement.
It can, and, you hope that people are better neighbors, and I know I've had to have that conversation, and thankfully, every time I have with my neighbors, it's been respected. I always say I had someone question me just 2 days ago, and I forget on exactly what it was, but I'm having this problem with my actually I know exactly what it was. Someone was trying to do some recording in their house, and one of their neighbors was blaring music. And it was the middle of the afternoon. It wasn't really outside the hours. She said, what do you think? I said, well, the first thing I would do is knock on the door and let them know. And I have to find out how that worked for her, but that's really your first answer. If you have a conversation with your neighbors and they're neighborly, and you hope that works. So
Right, before it was, I think it's unreasonable. I don't. Now it's, well, it is.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Per se,
So for me, a couple of changes that I would like to see is some of the decibel levels between normal business hours. For example, a sound level in definitions, noise disturbance, number 3, I think. A sound level reading taken at a residential property arising from another residential property above 55. You get to 55 dBA fairly quickly.
They're talking.
55 dBA is moderate rainfall. So, I mean, I just think that it being, I don't want it to be incredibly loud, but I think at 55 dBA, it's going to lend, it's going to exacerbate a lot of complaints on people just having, a party in their backyard and talking too loud. So I think some of the dBA levels have to be increased. Now, I do agree with the dBA levels after 10 o'clock, right? Where they drop real down. I mean, you have a dBA level in one of the things that says 45. 45 is a refrigerator. I mean, that's going to be overnight, so you don't disturb the neighbors. I get it. I think 45 is still a little low because I just think people are going to be like, look, it's loud. And it's going to warrant more complaints that I think are going to be frivolous, but justified by the levels that we're setting. Now, I'm not saying make it 100, which is motorcycles at 10 o'clock at night. I'm certainly not saying that. I just think the decibel levels are a little low. Secondly, the change that if you want me across the finish line, on Fridays and Saturday nights, I think we extend the period of time from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. Right? I think 10 p.m. is a little early. I do fully understand that this is a noise level taken at the residence, and I do fully understand. So, for example, if I have a place of business, or if I'm here and somebody, they can't come up to your house and into your backyard and say, well, you're over 55 dBA. It's got to be at their residence, at where they're located. I fully understand that, but I still think you get to the whole rainfall level fairly quickly and fairly easily. And I do fully understand that, as far as restaurants and stuff like that want live music, it doesn't necessarily say you have to stop the live music at 11 or 10. You have to tone it down at 10, preferably stop it. So that's why I think on a Friday and a Saturday night, we extend that to about 11 o'clock. And I would be happy with that. But I do want to look at the measurements and the DBAs, and I think they need to be increased a little bit all across the board.
Could I just make another comment which just occurred to me?
Didn't we close?
I actually closed public
Did you?
comment.
Did you? I don't think you closed it, did you?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's all right, Susan.
But send me an email, Susan.
If we adjourn, we may reserve the right to reopen.
But I want to hear your comments. Just send me an email, please. Thank you. Or us an email.
I just want to reiterate, as a small business owner, I had, you know, most businesses shut down around 11. So extending to 11 is very, very reasonable for a business, you know, and to adjust those DBAs, you know, a little bit here and there. That really needs to be examined.
Even create possibly a second or a third, a tertiary time where the DBAs drop really low. So like, or to the level they are. So for example, you know, after, I don't know, I'm just making up time, so don't quote me on it. And, but let's say after, you know, 1 a.m., then, you know, like, so it hits 11, it goes to this DBA on a Friday, Saturday, and then at 1, it hits this DBA, and then after 1, it's like, it tanks. You know, even during the week, you know, you might say, okay, you know what, after 10, it's going to go down to, for example,
Incorporate how the closest house
yeah, we just added,
happens to be.
right. So sound level, blah, 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 50 during, from 10 p.m. to 7, it's at 50. So maybe you say from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., it's at 55 or 60, and then at 1 a.m. it's 40. You know, you
Well,
got
I think
to shut down.
driving a car down the street might break that, and people understand it's very
Well, that's what I'm saying.
short term,
well,
but
that's what I'm saying about 50 as well. I mean, I think you get there
But I-
fairly quickly.
yeah, but
With
you know,
simple things
I
that
don't know
people do.
how many of our businesses are still rocking at 1 o'clock in Yorktown anymore, but you know, definitely something. So Adam, if you could meet with Sergio over some of his concerns and do a little research with him on some of the local codes and see if that stuff is there, it would be much appreciated.
Sure.
But I mean, I like the law, Adam, to be quite honest. I just, you know, a couple of minor tweaks for me, and I'll get right across the finish line on this one.
All right, so then I guess we'll adjourn this for a later date, with the reserve the right to reopen public comment on it. Okay.
Very good.
You don't need a vote. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We shall move on. Resolutions, so. From the Comptroller's Office, authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Parks Department, and that's general fund, fund balance to Parks Ground Maintenance, for rental safety fencing at Patriot Park. From the Highway Department, authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the Highway Department, and that's fund balance to paving and fund balance to CHIPS, the highway paving, to be reimbursed by additional funding by New York State for CHIPS, Pave New York, and Pave Our Potholes money. From Parks and Recreation Department, authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Rec Times, Inc. for online facilities and field scheduling for the Recreation Department. That is the new field scheduling that Jim Materano brought before. From the Planning Board, well, you know what? Let's take a vote on those to start. Can I have a vote?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so with the Planning Board, since we're coming up to Toll Brothers, I know we have some members here. Would you like to give us an update for?
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
All right, very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for having us back tonight. For the record, my name is Jacqueline Cohen. I'm an associate at the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. Here with me tonight is Kevin E. Moses from Toll Brothers. And so we're here tonight just to provide an update on the project review and also to determine next steps and scheduling with your board to advance review of Toll's zoning petition to rezone the Field Home Holy Comforter property on Catherine Street. So we were last before your board in March, on March 12th. Since then, we have appeared before some other town boards, including Conservation Board and ABACA, and they have both also sent comments back to your board. We have also been in front of planning. Planning department has produced a final memo with their comments for an updated EAF. So we have been working on responding to those comments. We expect to fully submit an updated EAF that satisfies those comments later on this week. So at this point, we do believe that all SECRA-related comments have been addressed and that you have everything you need to complete your environmental review and render a negative declaration under SECRA. So tonight, we're just looking to see if we can set a date for a public hearing on the rezoning, and that your board can do what it needs internally to start preparation of a negative declaration. And of course, we're here to answer any questions that you might have about the project and whatnot.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions at this point?
No, I think the planning, I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat. I think the planning board did a thorough job.
Yes.
And they were, they kicked it back to us as it should be. I don't see, John, is there anything that we should be concerned about but before we go ahead and set a public hearing on this?
I don't know if we're ready. We have a couple of reports. John, why don't you come up?
Yeah, let's see what John has to say.
I know we haven't gotten the historical architectural back yet, correct?
The historic consultant is working. You're doing the
Barton LaJudas
Barton LaJudas tonight, so they'll look at the environmental. In the memo that we produced for both you and the planning board, actually has some, the highlights of the things that are really loom the most important that I think to the project that you should probably take a look at and think about in depth. But that being said, I think we're nearing the point where there's a lot of information and a complete set of information in order for you to evaluate it. Once we get the historic and the other one in, notwithstanding. So I think you're getting to that point very quickly. But again, I urge you to take a look at some of those higher points and have a discussion about them amongst yourselves and with the public. To make sure that the project is the project that everyone will be happy with when it is built.
Do you happen to have the planning board memo with you tonight or no?
I do not.
Okay. Do we have a ETA on the historical?
I can check. We were out there, I think, 10 days ago with him, walking the site. And so I think he has another week or two to be finished up.
Okay, and has Barton and LaJudas given any idea on how long this will take once it's thrown out to them, or not really?
Not really, but they do good turnaround. So sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get them to the project. Once they're to it, they
get it out there.
Fully has their full attention. So,
well, if and when we pass this tonight, can we really get the fire lit under them?
Of course.
Because
Yeah.
I would like a complete set of the information. I'd like everything verified out. But I really want to get this moving. I know that you've been working on this a long time.
Yeah.
And I know that there are probably some deadlines coming up as probably contract for the sale of the property, and we need to try to make sure that this gets
sure,
one way or another to the finish line.
Will do.
All right, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you?
So given that it sounds like you want to do some more review before setting a public hearing, is that correct?
Yeah, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. Hopefully, we will get some of that information back by then and try to get an update from Barton LaJudas on when. I'd like to, at that time, probably bring in the planning board memo, see what T's have been crossed, what I's have been dotted. I'm sure that you guys have been working on that pretty diligently. I just don't have the update on where you are to where that is, and I don't have the memo with me today.
Mhm.
So,
We're still waiting on some info.
Yeah,
so,
no,
yeah.
absolutely.
So given that, could we schedule to come back in 2 weeks at the June 4th meeting just for an update and?
Yeah, John, do you think we could pull apart what they have for June 4th?
Yeah, you can put it on the schedule. If those two folks can't get, I'll let you know in a good amount of time.
Okay.
But yeah, we can set it for 2 weeks, and I'll do my best to get those two posted.
I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so, well, to get that moving, let's authorize Barton and Lejudas DPC to perform an environmental review for Toll Brothers Catherine Street project. From the police department, authorize the supervisor to sign agreement with Westchester County for the installation of an antenna at the Yorktown PD headquarters. Authorize the supervisor to sign an agreement with Westchester County for the acquisition of mobile police radios at my favorite here, no cost to the town. From the receiver of taxes, authorize a controller to refund the following duplicate tax and town and county tax payments as enumerated on here. From the town board, authorize the town clerk to circulate, oh, you know what? Let's come back to that one. Authorize home rule request effective as of May 21st, 2024 in support and passage of Assembly Bill A2983A and Senate Bill S9304, also known as Jake's Law. And Jake's Law is to get work zone cameras put up within our town to help enforce and make sure people understand that we will be enforcing and that there will be pictures and an added layer of safety for our workers out on the road. Last September, we lost Jake Akara in a horrible accident, and it's just a tragic thing. And I must say thank you to Pete Harcum and Matt Slater, and actually Dana Levenberg, who are co-sponsors of this. I am extremely disappointed with the chair of the highway safety. He would, in the assembly, he has not even put this on the agenda as of yesterday to pass it out and get it into at least a discussion and get this passed when we have the safety of our employees, our workers, our residents, for the entire state being ignored, being put aside like it doesn't matter. I just it's very, very disappointing because I always thought that our job was protection of our taxpayers, of our citizens, of our residents, and
Our workers.
Yep. And I really implore the assembly, and I don't want to mangle the gentleman's name, but he's an assemblyman out of Syracuse. I believe it's Magnotti, Assemblyman Magnotti. I implore you to please get this out there, get this out of committee, and let the assembly take it up. It's not that hard. If you don't want to pass it, you don't have to pass it. But please get it out of committee and let it get voted on, up or down. Authorize. Okay, this one I want to skip. Hold on, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to skip that other one now. We're also going to skip this one. For now, I want to have a little discussion on that. From the Water Department, authorize the supervisor to sign agreement with Optimum Controls Corp. to upgrade the SCADA control panel for the Quinlan Booster Pump Station for a total cost of $18,320. And that's for our pressure readings throughout the distribution system. And then there's to let the comptroller authorize process the following budget transfer. We're going to authorize the town supervisor to execute the master contract with EFC for the cleaning and structural relining of water mains along Route 35, Greenwood Street and Mill Street. And EFC is the Environmental Facilities Corp. Under the Water Infrastructure Improvement Program, or WIA. Authorize capital improvement under the water line cleaning and structural relining project, which is a secret type 2 action, and declare lead agency. Whereas the town of Yorktown seeks to undertake a capital project consisting of cleaning and structural relining of a portion of the water main lines of the following description: Yorktown Consolidated Water District, structural relining approximately 1,200 linear feet of 12-inch cast iron water lines along Route 202 and Greenwood Street, and approximately 250 linear feet of 8-inch cast iron water line along Mill Street, and secret type 2 action. All right, can I have a motion on those, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll back up a little bit. First, with the, listening to the people who came in today, I'm wondering if, before we even go for home rule request, Adam, we could bring in Homeland Towers to talk about if there are any different options out there. I know that when I spoke with Doug, we spoke about repeaters. We spoke about some different things, and I think maybe have them explore where the technology has moved since this whole project started. Might not be
Yep.
worst.
I think it's a great idea.
Let me just flag this for you. The last day of the session is June 6th. So if we wait till the next meeting, that'll be what, June 4th?
4th.
I don't know whether that's going to be too late for it to make this legislative session. So that's the only thing that, I mean, if it wasn't for that, I would say, yeah, no. I mean, it's up to you guys, obviously, but that's
So-
the only thing that.
So from the legislative session, am I correct in my thought process over the few times that we've had alienations of things that they only do it at the end of session?
Yes, and the session ends June 6th.
Right, and then if it were to come on for next year, it would have to wait until June of 25.
That's correct. So it would delay it a year.
And there is a possibility, though, of it being struck down by the state anyway, correct?
Correct.
All right. Let's send notification then to Homeland that when they come in for the public hearing, or maybe we even do an informational before that we look at all the differences. We could put this through and see what the state says.
I mean, it's
but-
not authorizing the project, so.
No, I know it's not, but I wanna give adequate time for a preparation of saying, hey, these are the alternatives, why they will work or won't work. And,
Yeah, and
and I think you even had mentioned maybe having a health expert come in.
yeah, we can do that. I mean, I have some experience with these cases. I understand the health concerns, but as I understand it, they're unfounded. And we can certainly have someone come in and provide testimony to that effect, an expert, to address the concerns. And on the alternatives, they understand that they need to make that presentation as I understand, they were prepared to make that presentation at the public hearing whenever that happens.
Okay.
So.
Look, I know where you were going with it, Ed, I think, but now given the caveat about, that they only take this up at the end of their session, and the fact that it's not really authorizing anything, and we can always request and require them to come in and get the expert anyway.
Well, that'll be part of the public hearing.
Yeah,
so
so, I'm willing to move this tonight.
All right, well, we'll put it up for vote. Authorize home rule request effective as of May 21st, 2024, in support and passage of Assembly Bill A10161 and Senate Bill S9212, alienation of a portion of parkland to operate a radio transmission tower facility at 109 Granite Springs Road. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we will see what the state says. And then last but not least, Authorize the town clerk to circulate the town board's intent to the appropriate agencies under state and local law and its intent to act as lead agency for a petition for a zoning amendment to the Lake Osceola Plan Design District Overlay Zone. Mr. Grace.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Real quick, we've discussed this over and over again. We know where we are. Basically, it's rezoning, looking to extend the overlay district to the parcel of land known as Creative Living. It's only the first step in it. Obviously, we would like this to be scheduled, that portion of amending the Osceola overlay district to include this parcel to hopefully go ahead for a public hearing sometime in June, preferably June 18th. I think your resolution requires us to give us an amended map because we had some parcels in there that you don't want to necessarily consider at this point. So I do have that with me tonight, and I'll give them to Madam Clerk, if you can circulate them. There's more than enough copies there. So we're all on board and ready to go. I think the first step, and this has been discussed quite a bit already. I don't want to reiterate it, but it's a good project for the future of the town, and especially that corridor. And we'd like to get started on it as quick as possible. Again, the first preliminary step would just to be extend the overlay district to include that property. At that point, once that's done, then obviously the deep dive will go into whether or not you actually, allow the project to go ahead under the overlay. So,
Michael, why don't you just explain to people, like from a 50,000-foot view of what the project is?
Well,
real quick.
Yeah,
You just stepped in it.
No, it is a housing project on 50 acres, which was presently Creative Living property, and it includes some active recreation components as well. The density is in comport with the zoning districts that you already have in place under the code. And it's the big plus, it's going to provide the sewer infrastructure along this Osceola Route 6 corridor. And we think that will lead to hopefully enhanced streetscapes in the corridor, a revitalization of the corridor, both in terms of economic revitalization, but also very importantly, and probably most importantly, ecologically as well, and providing sewers and hopefully saving that lake for the future. And I think this is what you have to understand. I think what the public has to understand is that infrastructure, which is very critical to the future of that area, both ecologically and financially, fiscally, is the installation of sewers. This project has to have a certain gravitas or a certain size in order to be the applicant to be able to afford the installation of that infrastructure, which is a significant public contribution. You're not going to get it without the numbers of units that we're looking for, but also those number of units will fit very nicely on the property. Again, won't offend underlying densities of zoning and the zoning code for R3 and similar zoning districts. It is also will be very the traffic. It's got major thoroughfares right next to it. And the other thing is it's going to be well hidden because of the way the property is situated. So we think it's an excellent project and a great opportunity for the town, and something that we've been waiting for in this town for decades in order to revitalize that corridor. And we think that it should be embraced enthusiastically, both by the town and by the town board. But the first step is getting the overlay district to extend onto that property. Once that happens, then the real work will continue in terms of the nuts and bolts of the particular project. But we want to get that started. Trying to get the plane off the tarmac, so to speak.
Right. Well, I will say that the sewer infrastructure, I think, is amazing partnership there. And I will say that also the Osceola Lake area, if we're doing sewer lines, it gives us a great opportunity to streetscape, to do a lot of different work over there in conjunction, and the pulling out all of that septic and going to sewer would be terrific as well.
You have a lot of small lots. You got a lot of infiltration of effluent into the lake. You have you have stormwater problems up through there as well, as everybody's very familiar with.
Yeah, I
There's
believe.
and you're going to have to, do something eventually, and it's gonna be a big nut for the town to cover on its own. We think that once we move this thing along, we will also probably look to solicit other levels of government to support the revitalization of that corridor, again, with storm sewers and streetscapes, which will be a traffic calming device. And so I think there's a lot to be very enthusiastic about. And I don't think that the numbers of units isn't, it's significant, but it's not, that it's 50 acres, and quite frankly, in comparison to other projects that are being proposed, it's quite modest.
I just want to go back to the whole, the septics, because I think a lot of those houses that border the lake, the septics are in the back of the houses, I believe, for some of them anyway, and they're right at the edge of the lake, so that lake likes to rise and set, and so that is one major concern. I mean, we talk about Sparkle Lake as well ecologically. I mean and so you're saying that when I did the polar plunge, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna glow or something?
Well,
So anyway, nobody
Sparkle's
told me
not
that.
as bad as Junior, trust me.
Nobody told me that.
But you're right.
So anyway, so just, yeah, so that being one thing. Secondly, if you ever want anything to improve in that corridor, it starts with sewers.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get that. I don't see how the town is going to be able to afford it. I don't see anything, maybe 20 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, but I don't see anything now, except this project that can provide that.
It's a total different situation than the Halleck's Mill sewer, which is another issue, but you have to, it's the county trunk. Again, every time you get a big storm, people's septics just get flooded.
But with the size of that district and the amount of people in it, and the way our districts are set up, where they each have their own fund, that project would never happen
No,
without.
and you're going to get a really upscale, very very pleasant. That's we provide architecturals very early on as to what the proposals will look like. They're very conscientious about that. As the aesthetic.
The other thing too is that the recreational component, which is there now, will remain.
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll actually, from what I see, it'll be enhanced. It'll be improved, and I know the applicant has done a lot with that property, with our youth and contributing to the community and stuff, and so it's much appreciated.
Yeah, I think you're going to find out that once you dig deep, you're going to find out that there's so many positives in this particular project for the town. It really is.
I would just like, I know I've had a lot of conversations with Tommy, God rest his soul, that he used, when he grew up, he used to actually ice race on the lake there. And I called BS on him because I've never seen ice on that lake, let alone thick enough to drive a car on. Yeah. But he said back in the day, and I think that's part of the sewer pollution issues that are happening in that water. And I'd love to, once again,
No,
love
yeah,
to see
and you
that.
have it's a drainage corridor, for a lot of even what's across Route 6 and to what's the par 3 golf course. There's a lot of at stake up there, and you need a project of a sufficient size, sufficient critical mass to make all that work, and this is it. So it's an opportunity that the town's been looking for decades, and I hope you all embrace it. We would just like to note it's going to happen if we can get it approved, and therefore we really like to try to move it along as quickly as we possibly can. We're hopeful because this has been this has been talked about for a couple of years now. We'd like to see if we can't get at least the extension of the Osceola district, overlay district, to be done sometime in the month of June, and if we can, June 18th. But we would certainly like to be done as early as we possibly can.
Well, I thank you for making the adjustments on the map and pulling out those areas that I'm not sure should be included. And let's talk about it. So resolved, the town board of the town of Yorktown declares its intent to act as lead agency for petition for a zoning amendment to the Lake Osceola Planned Design District Overlay Zone. to add the property located at 3000 Navajo Street and known on the tax map of the Town of Yorktown by tax map ID 6.14-1-2, and that the town clerk is authorized to circulate the town board's intent to the appropriate agencies under state and local law, including all supporting documents. And I know there was some concern about the package we had to the package John had, so let's make sure we get those together to have the right one. A proposed local law, and subject to the submission of a corrected map by the petitioner, which we have now. So that's a third of the way there. So if we could get those other two together.
Yeah, I think the proposed local law is easy enough. It's just an extension.
Yeah, no, that's fine, just to add that property, but I would like our clerk to have all the tools she needs in her tool belt to get that out to everyone. So can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. And then before we make the motion to adjourn, I want to once again, thank all our veterans as we come on Memorial Day, and we remember that when our veterans put on their uniform, they did not know where they were going, and they did not know if and when they'd be coming back. We appreciate the service, and we remember all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Please remember, Memorial Day is not just about having a barbecue. You do want to celebrate the freedom of our country and the sacrifice that goes with it, but it is also a time to remember those that perished in our battles. On
Well
that,
said.
thank you. On that, I'll make a motion. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good
Let's
night,
keep-
Yorktown.
Keep Jim and Patty in our prayers.
Yeah, and please keep the Rat Schmitz in your prayers. Yes.